Welcome to PhD with Woman on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD guest, Positivity Delivered, will be by our guest, Anne Orr. Topic: how to build high-performing and diverse board of directors. Episode 120 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto. And empathy is critical when you are building a high-performing and diverse board of directors. Let me just run through what's been happening in the world of technology and female achievements. Let's give a big hand to Glamour as they honor their annual Women of the Year Awards, a tradition that started a decade ago before the glass ceiling concept. Congratulations to all the Women of the Year. Congratulations also to our former PhD guest, Angela Thurman, on the successful launch of her new series, Talk Tech Tuesday. In this series, she will share practical tech tips and insights on how technology influences her life as a small business owner. Best of luck, Angela. We are proud of you. And finally, our words of applause goes to Kelly Howie, our PhD guest of twice last year and the year before. She officially joined the incredible Awaken Hub Big Sisters fraternity. Congratulations once again, Kelly. We are super proud of you, especially that you are the one who introduced us to today's guest. In this episode of PhD, we delve into a topic that can transform the very core of your organization, building a high-performing and diverse board of directors. The key to achieving outstanding results lie in having a board that not only reflects diversity, but is also driven by exceptional performance. Our guest, Anne Orr, founder of Boards 123, is on a mission to help organizations revolutionize their boards of directors. With a background in organizational management and a wealth of experience as a tech startup female founder, Anne is passionate about providing practical tools and training to create boards that drive success. Join us, ask your questions, don't hesitate to speak to us. We are happy to talk to you and make it an inclusive conversation. Anne, I am going to ask you, where is that favorite place of mine that you are calling us from today?
Hi Beata. Hi everybody. Thanks so much for having me on your show. This is absolutely so exciting for me. I'm in Belfast, and a place that you know very well. So it's fantastic for me to be talking to you from here this evening. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, it's my favorite place because my husband comes from Belfast, and I visited the Titanic headquarters where you are actually calling us from. So those who are familiar with Titanic, Belfast is the predecessor of Titanic, and that's where that amazing engineering wonder was built. So Anne, speaking about engineering and amazing, we have to mention your work and how you are helping the boards to build sustainable boards members and how to build great performing boards. So tell us, how did you come about Boards 123 and what does it do?
Yeah, so like as you say, I'm over here in Belfast, and when I started out on my journey of, volunteering on boards and working as a non-executive board of director on different nonprofit organizations, I did that classic thing where I kind of put a workflow or a process in my head and just thought like, oh my gosh, this is really complicated. This is really overregulated. There's so much compliance. There's so much administrative burden here when you sign up to be on a board of directors. Like, how can we actually get to the real nitty gritty? How can we get to the real, like the good stuff when it comes to being on a board if we're blocked by all of this, workload, this administration? So that's really when I started trying to figure out how can we make it really easy and accessible for people to join a board of directors and make a difference and get their voice heard, to the point where it's almost like the setup of a board is it's more like exclusive or exclusionary, and I'm on a mission to make it really inclusive and diverse and welcoming for anybody to really at some point take their seat at the table, get their voice heard, make a difference, and see actually how decisions are made and be part of the process. So that's what I'm all about, and especially when it comes to the people in your community who are in those decision-making roles and are on a really exciting career path, or they're inventing and innovating their own products and ideas, building their own communities. It's giving them the practical tools and tips on what is it that you need, to build that advisory board or that board of directors, and how can we all help each other and just make it easier to find the right people and to make boards work for everybody. So yeah, that's how I started off.
And I see that you can have a free trial. I can see that there is lots of different factors in that platform of yours. How did you build that? Was it yourself, or did you have a team to build that?
Yeah, so Boards 1, 2, 3 do a couple of things. We give training and workshops and coaching and mentoring. But the other really exciting thing that you're talking about is we built our own boards portal, boards dashboard. And the reason we did this is really felt that a lot of the options out on the market were, again, quite cumbersome and really admin heavy. And actually, I trust board members. I believe that if somebody's going to sit on a board of directors, that they have professional skills, they understand how to communicate, they've got a basic level of knowledge of governance going on. And it's just about what's that one thing that the people need to just settle into their role quicker and start making an impact, earlier than they would normally do. Because boards kind of have this perception of being, quite slow paced, which is a mistake. Actually, boards should be really active as opposed to really passive. So on the dashboard, what we wanted to do was empower people when they join boards to just come up to speed really quickly on their role and the responsibilities. And we do this on the dashboard through having a document vault, letting them access all the key documents, having set board goals, which is something, if we talk about building high-performing boards, that's really critical. So having board goals, having individual goals to activate those board members, mapping all of those goals to the United Nations sustainability goals, which is obviously really core to our own beliefs and values here at Boards 1, 2, 3, and showing them, is your board diverse? Is your board talking about environmental issues? Is your board talking about social issues? All of the ESG topics that we're talking about all of the time. Just giving them information and data to help them be really active, high impact board members. So that's what we did. We built this dashboard, and it's there to be used, and it was a really exciting journey.
Fantastic. And before we delve into next question, let's mention who's in the audience today. Mary, great episode tonight. Thank you, Mary, indeed. And Jane, looking forward to listen today. Face red heart shape. Fantastic, Jane. Thank you so much. And IPO Vid, in Patrick's opinion, that would be my husband. What a joy to see. What a joy to Policy Director of Expertise live from Belfast. Excellent choice of guest, Beata. Good to see you sharing your knowledge, Anne. Absolutely. We are happy to host you today, Anne. So before we came to the show, you said there is a question that sometimes you're being asked and you hate that because you're being asked, can you find me a board member? And what is your answer then?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. So one of the things, the most frequently asked question that I get is, oh, I actually need a board member. Could you get me one? And the thing I hate is when I have to tell everyone, no, I can't. It's really, really important to kind of go through the process of either building your board and getting your board culture fit right on a personal level, or if you're doing a spring clean or a refresh of your board, or you're looking at succession planning, that's something that you as a leader, chairperson, a chief executive, founder, first founder, female founder, that is the most exciting thing that you can actually do yourself. You can empower yourself. You can own this process. So I want you to start dreaming about if you're in this room talking to these trusted group of people, having the worst and the best conversations of your business life at the exact same time, who do you want to share those conversations with? Who do you want to cry with? Who do you want to celebrate with? Who do you want to, really wrestle with amazing strategic conversations with? So if I go away and I find you a board member, that board member may not be the right fit for your business, for your vision, for your big dream, whatever it is. So it's really, really important that Boards 123 helps you on that process to kind of figure out, what does that person look like? Where would they find them? What skills do they need? How do we want to speak to each other? How are we going to work together to solve problems? But actually, putting a name on a name tag, that's something that you'd have to kind of come up with yourself. And the reason I always say no, is just because that you probably already know who that person is. You just need to figure out how to ask them or hook them or whatever it is.
So you mentioned how to find them. So tell us how to find these people that are necessary to fill in the
yeah. And I think the really interesting thing about that question is you talked about Kelly before, and I know when Kelly was on, this is something that Kelly's really passionate about, is how to find board members. So if you don't get a chance to, if you didn't get a chance to see it, check out what Kelly said, because she gave everyone a masterclass in how to use your network to find board members, or if you want to be a board member, again, to flip that around and actually how to use your network to get your first board position. So definitely what Kelly said. I suppose there's two ways to find board members. One is from your existing network, and one is from new networks. And your existing network could be somebody internal to your organization, or internal to a different organization who may not actually, you might not think that they're very senior and they are suitable for what you would perceive maybe as a board position. But this is where I think we kind of need to change the conversation and accept that there are a lot of people who may not have board experience, but they actually have skills that boards need, or skills that boards need to access in some way to actually help make better decisions. So things like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, future of work, all of those things, there are people thinking about those in their day-to-day jobs, and they can be an asset to the board. And actually, they are probably quite diverse people, and they can help build your board diversity. So nurturing your network to kind of scope out where those people are, and if they can be nurtured into maybe board positions in the future, and obviously, then working through, if you need more experience, how can you find that board experience through your networks and your connections? So.
Fantastic. As always, we encourage everybody to check out the interview with Kelly Howie. It's a couple of episodes back. She talked about how to not only find a board member, but also how to be chosen for to be a board member. So now, Anne, I wanted to ask you from the get-go, what is the optimal size of a board?
Okay, that's a really good question. It depends what stage you're at, is the answer. So if you kind of think about your journey in 3 different stages, so your startup stage, your growth stage, and then your exit at the end, your size, your board size can change as you go through those 3 different stages. So I would say if you're starting off, if you're like a female founder or a startup founder, or even you're just kind of getting together your initial advisory board, you're probably looking at about 5 to 7 or 8 people. It would be a lot. So you may be starting out about 5 people. And again, those are your, the people that you really trust, the people that are going to tell you cold hard facts when you may not want to hear them, and but they will bring you to where you need to go. Then when you get into the growth phase, you're starting to grow your board, and you might be getting investors in, and they might have board seats, as part of their investment deal. So your board's going to start to grow a little bit at that point, and the dynamic will shift. So again, it's really important that you are comfortable with how the culture on the board is working out in the boardroom, and want to avoid any issues, or things like bullying or harassment, or any like unbalanced power dynamics, things like that. So your relationship with your chairperson at that point is going to be really, really essential. And then as you get into your exit phase, getting ready to cash out and go live on this amazing tropical island that you truly do deserve at that point. Who knows how many people will be on your board? It could be 10, could be 12, and then you'll probably maybe have additional, shareholders as well, who may not necessarily sit on your board, but they'll definitely be quite vocal in the decisions that you make. So yeah, so it depends what stage you're at.
So what role do shareholders play in the selection of directors?
Well, this is a really, really topical question. I may not be the most legal person to answer this, but there is a whole new wave of activist shareholders really starting to vocalize how they feel about boards of directors and the decisions that they make. To the point where shareholders will all get together and, potentially oust chief executives, chairpersons, board members, different things like that, if they feel that they are not representing the culture, the risk, the reputation, the strategy of what the majority of the minority shareholders feel. You kind of see this sometimes in football clubs, or startups with like lots of shareholders, where it just goes really bad at the top, and it's quite dysfunctional and maybe misogynistic, or they're not in tune with maybe environmental best practice, or diversity best practice, different things like that. So shareholders are getting more powerful, especially in the activist shareholder way, and investors are looking at that as well. So it's really important when you are building your board that that all of these risk and reputation things kind of all join up, connect all the dots together. So it's quite a lot to think about in that.
And in terms of a startup, you mentioned that if you're a founder, you can set up a board of 5 to max 8 directors. What compensations should be paid to these directors?
Okie dokie. Yeah, love this question because nobody likes the answer. Okay, so I suppose shorthand is you get what you pay for. So if you can offer equity, or you maybe want to pay people a set rate. Again, this is completely something that you will do with your legal counsel when you're setting out your shareholder agreements and things like that. But it could be anything from 0.5% to 2% earned over time, earned equity over time. It could be maybe you just want to pay them. So depending on how much time, how many board meetings, different things like that, it could be, I mean, it would be really low at 5,000. It could be 10. It could be higher. Do you know what I mean? But again, you do get what you pay for. There are ways to kind of start out in an advisory board position, and to be quite honest, you might find it quite difficult to get somebody onto your board if you are just starting out, because the risk of being a board member is increasing. So people may actually be more comfortable in an advisory role where they're not taking any compensation, but again, they're just that trusted voice that you can call on. And I would recommend that as a good way of starting out and testing, how do you work with experienced board advisors, and actually start from there, and just bring someone for a coffee and ask them, how much you're on that board, how much does that board pay somebody of your caliber, and take that as your starting point.
What information should be covered with director candidates upon their election to the board?
Okay, so this is really, really important. This really goes towards building your high performance board. It's really actually quite, I don't want to say shocking or sad, but don't assume because you're bringing a person onto your board that they understand what you need them to do. So if the question is, what information do you share with somebody when they're starting off on your board, you will definitely 100% have to let them know what their roles is on the board. So are you the chairperson? Are you the company secretary? Are you a non-executive director? Are you an independent director? What is your role? What are your responsibilities? Is also something that we work through to clarify when you are building the board, because it's more about understanding, where is that line? Where is the board's responsibilities and where is the executive team's responsibilities? Because that's almost where you start connecting up at the board meetings. You're sharing information up into that line. So, but who's responsible for taking action on things that come out of those discussions? So roles and responsibilities are really important. And letting them know, what risks are you facing today? What are your key risks and issues? Because why have a board if you're not going to share, risks and issues with them? That's their strength. They know how to fix these things. And this is where they can really, start to change the dial and start elevating your board or elevating your company for growth at that point. So bringing them in to help solve those problems is really essential.
And in terms of requirements, but also about independence of the director, what would be ideal situation? Especially thinking about, I'm thinking about these ladies who would like to start a career as a board member, and they are not quite sure whether they can apply or they can send their CV because they are not sure whether there is a clash of interest.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. So I think there's so many amazing people in your community that should be applying for board positions, wherever you are in Europe or in the UK, or wherever you're dialing in from. There'll probably be a couple of different buckets that you can look at and start to explore. So, if you start at the top, there's probably government departments or government funded organizations that distribute government money. And those organizations will have boards. And it's really important, especially in the UK and definitely across Europe, that those boards have diversity, baked into them. So I would say, and they're generally paid positions, and you would go through a formal interview process, and you would get feedback. So why not give it a go? Because the value will be in the feedback. The value will be in preparing your CV and preparing for that interview and getting that feedback. And if you get the position, fantastic. And if you don't, it's okay, because you're going to go again and go again, and you'll get it on your third and your fourth go, and that's fine. So I would say that's kind of one end, but definitely just give it a go. And then all the way to, nonprofits, community groups, charities, where I work a lot with. And those are mostly volunteer-led, but no less challenging at all, because, you have to do a lot more with a lot less resources. So you're really problem solving, and you're also doing what I think a really great board member will do, which is cheerleading and supporting and, just evangelizing the fantastic work of the organization that you're working for, or working on behalf of, or volunteering on behalf of as a board member in those nonprofit roles. So I would just say give it a go. There's lots of online web board portals where you can see board positions that are available, or they're needing a board person. But you could always just start in your local sports club if you want experience.
Local sports club if you want experience, or NGO if you need that experience to be able then to move up the corporate ladder. Now, what skills and experience we know that is critical, because we are going into that wheel of I can't get a job because I don't have experience. I don't have experience because I can't have a job. So what skills are critical to become a director of board?
Okay, what skills? I think this is where females actually really, really excel, because I think being a board member is a lot about having really good soft skills. So being a really good listener, being able to communicate, active listening, understanding, empathy, allowing the other person to be heard and actually just share the issue or the risk or the problem that needs solved, as opposed to just jumping into solution mode. Again, that's where, the executive team are there to do the tactical day-to-day solving of the problems, and the board are there to support them and to listen and to oversee and to provide governance and oversight on those matters. So I think that's where, gender-wise, females actually excel in being really good board members, and they can think about things from different perspectives, different customer point of views, different employee point of views, all of that kind of thing. So I think, soft skills like communication, understanding, empathy, all of those skills are really, really important. And then you will have, the more professional skills. You will always have a lawyer, a financial person, and an accountant maybe on the board. Project management skills, I think, or implementation skills are really fantastic for board members, because that means they are somebody that knows how to get stuff done and solve problems and cut through all of the weeds and just get quickly from A to B. Because often when you're a board member, you're either solving really big problems or celebrating really big wins, or coming up with really big ideas. So those are skills that we all have, and there's no reason at all why we all just can't be on boards. That's what I believe.
Absolutely, and you have to be a go-getter indeed to get to that position. We've got some lovely comments. Kim Fiermak says some valuable advice. Indeed, Kim, thank you very much for your comment. And Marianne Madera, hello, Beata and Anne. Thank you for this live stream. Anne is such an inspiration. Thank you, Anne, for your wonderful tips. I hope they are going to inspire you, Marianne, to apply for a position of whether it's ESG run organization or whether it's NGO, whether it's sports club, whether it's I don't know, diner, because we know that Marianne loves her food. Now, we mentioned ESG, and ESG is being mentioned on your portal quite often. What is it, and why is it such a hot topic right now?
Okay, cool. All right. So, well, we'll try and give it a go. I promise I won't be like 2 hours talking about ESG. Although anyone who knows me has already rolled their eyes and went, Anne can't stop talking about ESGs. Well, so when I started on my journey, back at the very start, I kind of mentioned, I was on some nonprofit boards, and I really felt that a lot of it was repetitive and administrative. So that's governance, that's the G. ESG, that's the G in ESG, that's the governance. So environmental, social, and governance, ESG. And this idea of ESG kind of started back, I think it was the Paris Agreement. And when we were looking at, which is now like net zero goals, and actually looking at how can we as a global society, in business, do better so that it is as much our responsibility to solve these environmental and social and governance goals, governance issues, as much as governance and governments themselves. So, and from that we got the United Nations 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the UN SDGs, and that's the colourful squares that you will see everywhere. Sometimes you'll see it like in a colourful circular emblem as well. And they talk about things like environmental issues like life on land, clean air, safe communities, working in partnership to solve decisions, no poverty, gender equality, access to health, food security, no hunger, all of those really, really big issues. And when you start talking about ESGs, people are now probably going like, I can't solve all of those problems. I'm just a business person, and what can I possibly do to make an impact? And I think that's where we really wanted to focus our dashboard on, is actually showing organizations that just by having, 5 critical goals that you do every year and somehow linking them to net zero or social impact, that is, you are actually already doing it, guys. You already have the language around CSR, corporate social responsibility. That you want to save money on energy costs. You want to kind of diversify your energy supply or reduce energy usage. So you're already part of the net zero journey. And actually just connecting the dots for those people and just kind of saying, if we all do a little bit, we will all get quite far together in solving the SDGs. So, yeah.
Well, it's a lot of commitment, but in terms of timing, when you apply to become a board of director member, how much time do you need to account for that?
Yeah. Okay. So if you're going to be a board of director, you'll probably be told that you just need to go to board meetings and that's it, but that's not it at all. So you need to add in board meetings, but in order to be a really good board member or an effective or an active board member, you really need to be prepared. So that means you just need to read the board papers in advance, and best practice is for those to come out a week before the board meeting to allow all the board members time to read them. That doesn't always happen. But that should be your goal. So, set aside a couple of hours to read them, and maybe take that week to, if you have any questions, to send those questions back to the organization. I would say try not to wait until a board meeting to ask a question, because they may not have the answer actually sitting in front of them. So the time would be your board meetings, your prep time, your reading time, if you've got any questions. And then hopefully you will have an action, because you will be an active board member, and you will take an action to maybe, reach out to your network and ask, a funding question, or show up at an event that your organization is running, or take in the goalposts at the end of training in a week or two. You're going to get stuck in any way you can. So it's more than just a board meeting, I think, to be a really good, impactful board member.
And should there be any limit on your length of service?
I believe there should be a limit. Some organizations, it depends on the type of organization you're in. So, a nonprofit may have a limit on how long your tenure is. If it's a private company, or you're a majority shareholder, that could be as long as the articles say that you can be on that board for, until maybe you get voted off or you decide to retire or something like that. But if we're talking nonprofits, I do believe that people should step away after maybe like 2 terms, just to allow new people to come on board. And that's really not to say that person wasn't of extremely high value to the organization. That's more just a case to say, it's always good to have new voices and new opinions and new ways to think about problems at board level. So if you're about to step away from a board and you're not sure if you should do it, it's okay. It'll be fine. They have your number. They know how to get in touch with you, and you'll always be there to help them. But it's always good to nurture new talent, and bringing that diversity into boardrooms is really, really important.
Why?
Oh my gosh, why? Why? I love it. Yeah, I know. Well, there's so many studies, but how about 35% growth? How about that? That's a good why, I think. If your board's diverse, there's a study to say you get between 25 and 35% bump in your growth or your revenue or whatever your goal is, your performance. So I think I can give you another 5 or 6 reasons, but to me, that's the number one reason why. The other reasons are things like, again, risk and reputation. Market drivers now really need you to have diverse boards. Apart from the fact that, if you're looking at California or European Union, you actually have regulatory requirements to build diversity in at the boardroom, and also investors are really keen to see diverse boards because they have that on their tick list as well. And we also have, facts that say, if you have a diverse board, you will make better decisions in your product roadmap. You'll have better communication, you'll have better problem solving, and you'll understand your customer a lot better as well. So, and then those kind of all feed up into that 35% bump in performance improvement. So.
Anne, you are based in Belfast, but I guess it doesn't matter where you're based if you want to have continuous education. What education would you recommend to those who want to excel at being board members?
Okay. I think the best way to learn to be a board member is literally just to bite the bullet and volunteer and get started and just get some experience. If you are doing really well in your job, if you have the basics around meetings, communication, how to work with people, how to listen to people, you're going to be fine. It's going to be totally fine. If they bring you on to be on a board, there are so many support organizations that will teach you, governance 101, or how to, all the way up to, you can get certified in corporate governance if that's something that you're interested in. That's something normally that an accountant or a legal person will pursue. But yeah, if you just really want to get started on a board, I would say find a board, find a mentor, and trust that the people on the board won't let you fail. Or they will definitely, hold your hand as you go through the process. And honestly, I've been in so many board meetings where you think that the person who's been there the longest knows everything. They are the first people to admit that actually they need new voices on the board to kind of help reframe and help refilter how to make better decisions for today, for the times that we live in today. So it's actually really, really important that people think they can't, that there's not a certificate or something that somebody needs to be on a board. They just need to ask and get that opportunity and get started. And again, I think this is kind of where the system has built this blocker that, you need to be certified, but that's not the case. I suppose for us at Boards 1, 2, 3, that's how we've designed our training, is to just empower people and build that confidence. So whether it's they're building their very first board or they're joining a board, it's just building those skills around, how do we actually want our board to work, and what does that look like, and then just testing it out and giving it a go.
A diverse mix of voices leads to better discussions, decisions, and outcomes for everyone, as Sundar Pichai says. And we mentioned diversity as a very important aspect to fulfill the sustainability requirements. However, I wanted to ask you, Anne, what about your experience? Have you been on many boards, and have you seen some that work best or that didn't quite work the way they should?
Yeah, so I've been on boards and I help boards and I've trained boards, and the thing that I love about being on a board is that it's my opportunity to kind of use my professional skills to give back or to help organizations. And then the thing that I get from it, because it's a two-way street. Yeah, so whether it's a paid position or a volunteering position, you have to understand, like, what's your why? Why do you want to be on that board or work with that board? And what's your professional goals or aims and ambitions, but also what do you want to personally get out of it? So it may be a case of you're not getting compensated, but you're building your network. It may be a case of you're not getting, but you are getting compensated, but you're actually putting the time, you are investing your time as well to make that company even better than it was before.
Now we have a question from Patrick, and it's relating to your previous answer. So do you feel, example, the UK Cadbury report and so forth really build good boards, or do they not merely encourage too much turnover of boards given the much greater economic success of the USA, where they do not have the same prescriptive board limits?
Yeah, I guess boards in America operate slightly differently. Non-profit boards, you actually pay to sit on the board. It's like a really high value asset thing. So if you've got people paying to be on a board, do you stop to count how many people are paying you? I don't know. So boards in America can grow to be quite large, and that can lead to boards being quite unwieldy. It could also lead to a lot of really good conversations as well. Board limits, again, it's all about time. How much time are you going to put in to manage your board? If you want to get a decision made, you have to have a conversation or inform everybody on, what the decision is and how are you going to make it and all of those kinds of things. It's all about, how much resources do you have and how prescriptive do you want to be, and how fast do you want to move when it comes to boards. I don't know if I answered your question, but give it a go.
That's a good starter. Now, Anne, as we are heading towards the end of our show, I wanted to ask you, and that really applies to many board members. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water." So, in life, how are you in hot water? Or how are you brewing? Or how would you advise board members to brew in hot water?
How are you brewing? How are you doing? Oh my gosh. But I'm never in hot water. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm always just, I'm straight die here. No, not at all. I would say you just have to, whenever there's like a crisis or a critical thing, you just have to, what are the facts? What's the most important thing we have to do here? What can we actually get done? Because you might have 10 things you need to do, but you can only do 2 things right now. So I suppose that's kind of the approach I would take. And then I suppose because of COVID, because of everything, because, we're all busy, family, carers, all of this sort of stuff that us women have to do, I would say we're fine in hot water. We'll get through it. It will all get done. Let's not panic. And we'll just keep going, and we'll just keep taking everything off as and when. It'll all get done at some point. Just some people may have to wait slightly longer than others. So I'm great.
I'm sure you are, or you can add a dash of milk to your Earl Grey tea and everything will cool down.
Yes.
Patrick is adding a comment. I mean term limits, not size of boards, and he is really happy with your answer. Interesting response. Thank you, Anne. Now, Anne, we wanted to ask you about your number 1 book that you would recommend to anybody starting their career as a board member.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about, my number 1 book, and it's a book I go back to all the time. And in fact, I'm currently redoing the whole thing again with a very good friend of mine. Shout out to Dee. And so it's called Designing Your Life. And it's, if you're into design thinking or product development, you'd be familiar with like the D School in Stanford. So it's almost like adapting the design thinking methodology to your personal life. If a certain generation before that may have been familiar with a similar type book, I think it's called like The Artist's Journey or The Artist something. And it's all about finding your why, and then, asking lots of what if questions. And it's a brilliant book, and I highly recommend it. And it's so easy to read because I don't read a lot of books. It's so easy to read. It's a workbook, and I definitely do it with a buddy, do it in the buddy system, over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And it will 100% change your life, set you on the right path, and just get you more in balance. It's fantastic. Everyone should read this book.
Absolutely. And you can get your questions, and because a good board of directors is a board that is not afraid to ask the tough questions, as Nora Denzel says. Yeah. Now, we wanted to ask you a quote, and how did it change you?
My life lesson quote. Is it the Oscar Wilde quote? So when I'm doing my training, I talk a lot to new board members, and I was talking over COVID. I was training a lot of graduate students who didn't have any maybe real life work experience, but were being fast tracked, were keen to kind of get into more, roles of responsibility in their jobs, in their graduate jobs. And I came across this quote from Oscar Wilde, which is, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Be yourself because everyone else is already taken. And I couldn't believe it took me like several years to discover this quote. And it just really resonates with me so strongly, because I think, especially even before COVID, we were all in a little bit of a rut when it came to, how we work, when we work, all of this sort of stuff, what we look like when we go to work. And I think now it's really, really important, to kind of represent, yourself when you go into meetings, represent yourself and your own voice when you're in the workplace, because there only is, one Anne, one Beata, one anybody. And I just really love this quote, and it just makes total sense, especially when it comes to taking that step, getting the first board position, and then just trusting that they wouldn't have picked you if they didn't like you, who you were, for your own merits, and that you're there because your voice matters and they need your voice at the table. So that's why I always say that's my favorite quote now: be yourself because everyone else is already taken.
They need your unique voice, so don't try to replicate what everybody else is doing. Have your own path. Now, and I wanted to ask you about, we mentioned pandemic, we spoke during uncertain times, and I wanted to ask you about your traveling dreams. Who would you like to take to a private breakfast, and where would you go to?
Oh yeah. Oh, where would I go? Go definitely somewhere warm. I'm not a winter ski person at all, so it'd have to be somewhere really lovely, beautiful beach. I don't know, somewhere with like just a lovely chilled out vibe. I'm not a morning person at all, so I would just want somebody to sit in silence with at breakfast. So I'm thinking, some sort of like meditation expert who can just, center me and calm me for the day, and have like a really lovely, healthy, clean breakfast, some nice granola and some nice yogurt and all that sort of good stuff. No meats or anything. And that would just be lovely. So I'm now in my head, I'm just dreaming of like Ibiza or somewhere, like really chilled out vibe, somewhere like that. Greece.
And you can have that hot water to brew something amazing and something that will make you chilled. Could be a mint tea, for example.
Yes.
Absolutely. Anne, thank you very much for all your answers. Are you working on any exciting project right now?
Oh yeah, it's really, really exciting. Thanks, Beata. We have our waitlist open for our Build Your Board cohort. It's going to start in January, and we've got quite a few sign-ups already, which is I'm really honored to everybody who's signed up already. And so thanks to all those people. But if you're interested, there's still spaces left. And we're really on a mission with Build Your Board to just, again, empower everybody to have those skills and confidence when it comes to just basically making a kick-ass board and being the best damn board you can have. So, yeah.
So Build Your Board is really for those who are trying to get a sustainable board members.
Yeah. Well, Build Your Board is you're a founder, or you're about to get investment, or you're setting out on your journey for the very first time, and you know that you're going to need some really strong voices around you. And how are you going to do that? So not to make it overwhelming or anything at all, just really easy step-by-step guide how to get you set up with your first board of directors. It's going to be brilliant.
Absolutely. It's going to be brilliant because Anne Orr is going to lead it. And now, and thank you very much. And thank you, Mary Jane, IPO Eating Patrick's Opinion, Kim Vermaak, and Marianne Madera for making comments. Now, I would like to also invite everyone for next week because we will have a recording. I actually recorded the meeting with Tovia Valeua, and we gonna talk about using technology for social good. So we are still going to be in sustainability topic, and I hope you gonna have fun listening to us just like today. Now, it's been a pleasure to host you here in London in the grey weather, but still the future is promising. If you're trying to become a board member, definitely reach out to Onboard. Or you can read our messages on or follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube to get alerted once a new episode has been released. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. And finally, as Maya Angelou says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Change your board. Change your director. Today is your day to hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you.